Hey guys, and welcome to another week of Nephilim Necessities. Today I'll be showing you guys how to make Clary's Cursed Hand tutorial makeup from Season 2. Alright, the first thing you're going to need is a really good reference photo. I just pulled up one that Kat had on her Instagram, and I'm going to be using that one today. Now, the process that they use on the show to do this is pretty expensive and a little bit complicated. What they usually do is they'll take clay and they'll put the design they want to use on that. Then they'll take a molding compound, usually silicone or a rubber, and then they'll mold it onto that. Once that's dry, they'll use their latex or silicone or whatever they're using for the actual appliance and put it over top of that and peel it off and use it. Now, that's a pretty expensive process, and the paint that they use is usually an alcohol-based palette, and those can run anywhere from $60 to $150. So if you're just doing this for Halloween or a convention, I'm gonna show you a cheaper way to do it that's a lot easier of a process, and you'll be able to get the hang of it in a few hours instead of a few weeks. Today we're gonna be using liquid latex. Now, I have to warn you guys that I actually have an allergy to latex, and I would recommend you patch test this on the inside of your wrist to make sure you're not going to have a reaction. Do not use things you're allergic to. I'm doing it for this video just so I can show you guys how to do it. But if you are allergic, the side effects of this can be anything from a rash to an EpiPen. So make sure you test this first, and if you're allergic, don't use this. I like to use the flesh toned liquid latex just because when you go to paint it, it's going to be a little bit closer to your skin tone. If you get white latex, then when you paint it, say black, it's going to look more gray on the latex and it's going to look more black on your skin tone, which you don't want two different skin tones on something that's obviously only supposed to be your skin. So I like to go with the skin tone for these kind of projects. You're just gonna dump a little bit out onto your parchment paper. I like to use a little bit and not a lot, just because this stuff is kind of expensive, so I don't like to use too much. I'd rather use a little and keep adding as I have to go. All right, so first what you're gonna do is you're just gonna take your cotton ball and you're gonna pull it apart into some long strands. Now we're gonna basically make little like veins with this. So just pull it apart as much as you can, lengthen it, and then we're gonna roll it in our liquid latex. Just completely cover it. And once it's completely covered, just go ahead and pull that into really thin strands. They look like little goopy worms. Now lay these either over top of your already existing veins, or just put them wherever you want to create a little more of an unsettling look. Now, since I'm going off of Clary's photo, I'm gonna try to make it look really crackly with a lot of veins. So I'm just gonna put my cotton going a few different directions to try to make it look like the veins are really branching out and it's been burned. Now, another thing you wanna keep in mind when you do this is that you don't want this to just look like you put like Play-Doh worms on your fingers. So around the edges of your cotton and latex, just tap it out gently and try to flatten the edges a little bit, because it'll make it look more like skin and real veins than just like a little worm that was stuck to your hand. All right, now just keep adding these until you're happy with how many veins are on your hand. You could go for just a few, you could go for a lot, whatever you want to do for yours. This is definitely not a clean project either, you guys. I'm a mess right now. So just keep that in mind whenever you try to do this. Make sure you have a workspace and put on old clothes. Don't wear anything you really love. If this gets on your clothes, you will not be able to get it out. So if you want to do this for a cosplay, do this first, get dressed after. All right, now once you're done, it's gonna look a little something like this, which really doesn't look that great, but that's okay because we have step 2. Now you can either let this air dry, or you can do what I'm gonna do and grab your trusty hairdryer to dry it really fast. Now, in place of that alcohol palette, we could use airbrush makeup, but that's also pretty expensive, and I'm guessing that most of you guys don't own an airbrush at home. So instead, I like to use Craft Smart acrylic paint. Now, before you freak out on me and start yelling about how acrylic paint doesn't go on your skin, This brand of acrylic paint in particular is non-toxic and safe for your skin. I actually pulled up the safety data sheet on my phone, and these are the ingredients that are in this paint. Water, nepheline cyanite, which is actually just a crushed up rock, calcium kaolin, acrylate polymer solution, which is just plastic, that's in most foundations, ground limestone, also super harmless, non-hazardous colorants, same thing that's in your makeup, titanium dioxide, that's in any sunscreen or sunscreen makeup, and propylene glycol, which is in things like vape juice, makeup, and food. So that's all that's in here. And all of the warnings on the side say that there are no side effects and no skin irritants. So this brand in particular is 100% safe to be using on your hands. I would not necessarily recommend it for your face just because there is extra testing that goes into things just for your face, but the ingredients in here are less harmful than most stuff in most makeup, so I feel completely safe using this on my hands. All right, so I'm just gonna squirt out some of this black paint on my parchment. Ooh, that's a lot of black paint. All right, now I'm just gonna use a huge brush for this. You can use paint brushes from any craft store. I would not recommend makeup brushes because it'll ruin your makeup brushes. These are totally fine. And you're just gonna put black on your brush, and you're going to coat your entire hand down to about a little bit above your little wrist bone right here. Now you can make this lighter in certain spots if you really wanna go for that burnt look like Clary's, just so that way not everything is like pitch black, you have some different colors going on there. But the acrylic paint is pretty good about doing that on its own. You don't really have to try too hard. Airbrush makeup goes on a little bit thicker and will cover almost everything. So acrylic paint actually works a little better for this type of thing, and you're gonna get the look you want without having to work extra hard to do it. It's just kind of natural this way. Another tip I have is that I would recommend you paint your fingernails with a clear polish before you do this, just so that you can just take the polish and the paint off together, it won't be on your nails. Or you could use a peel off base coat, I love those, and that would also be great. You can just peel it right off and the paint will be gone from your fingernails. All right, now once you have the front of your hand done like this, flip it over and you're gonna coat everything in here. Another side tip is if this is for a cosplay, you're not gonna be able to wash your hands. So just a heads up on that. If you wash this, it will come off. All right, so when you're done, it should look a little something like this. Now you'll notice that because I'm using acrylic paint, it didn't completely cover everywhere. When I bend my hand, there's little peaks of my skin, and that's what I want for this look, just because it gives it a little more depth. All right, now for step 2. I'm going to be using the same brand of acrylic paint, and I'm just gonna mix a little bit of red with a little drop of brown. And then I'm going to take a small brush or an angled brush, whichever one's easier for you, and mix those together. All right, now I'm just gonna brush off the excess paint on my parchment, and I'm gonna go into these veins, and along the edges of the veins where my skin color is showing through, I'm just gonna paint a little bit of this red color in the crevices. All right, now if you're not finding enough crevices to put paint in, you can take a toothpick, or I have this little stick, and just go into a really fat piece of the vein that you glued to your hand and tug on the edge of it until it's pulled up from your skin just a little bit. It should show some of your skin on the inside, kind of like that. Then just take your paint and put it in that little spot that you pulled up. Now, if you're finding there's not enough room to put red on here, you can go ahead and freehand those veins as well. Just do really small strokes and kind of feather them toward the end. All right, now those cotton pads we mentioned earlier are gonna come in handy. Just take one of your cotton pads and take the smooth side off of one side of it, dip it in that red paint, and then blot it off on your paper until almost nothing comes off in your parchment. Then you can go to the part of your hand that's mostly black, and we're just gonna dab it a little bit in random places, just to give it little pops of red that look like they're coming through, without putting on too much red. You don't want your hand to just be black and red. You want it to be textured. All right, now let's grab a makeup sponge. All right, now what I want you to do is take your makeup sponge and rip the top off, just so that you're left with the fat part on the bottom. Now, that textured side, we're just gonna dip in the paint, dab off the excess, and we are going to go around our wrist where the black disappears. So start on the black. If you have too much paint, go ahead and dab a little more off. And the heavier part of it can go over top of the black, and then just gently fade it out towards your skin. This is just gonna make it look like you actually got burned or cursed, instead of just like having a harsh line of black at the end of your wrist. It's gonna look a little more realistic that way. And just continue it the whole way around your hand. And don't worry if this isn't perfect. Go ahead and smudge it, brush it. It's supposed to look cursed. It's not supposed to look perfect. All right, now the last step is optional. You don't have to do this if you're worried about it being too sticky, but I'm going to use some Ben Nye Thick Blood. The stuff for this container is kind of expensive. It's $32, but it'll last you forever. I've had this tub for 3 years and I'm still using it. They sell tiny tubs, which I'll link you to below, that are only about $8, and it's really all you'll need for this project. So just go ahead and take a tiny bit of that gel blood. I gelled my lid together. Take some of that gel blood out and put it on your mat. All right, now just go ahead and take that toothpick or that mascara wand or whatever you're using and put a little bit of gel blood on it. And then just go ahead and put it in those little pockets we created earlier by pulling up that latex. This is just gonna give it a little more of a 3D look, and it's gonna make it look a lot more like gory and bloody and just a little more realistic instead of just flat paint. Now you can go as crazy as you want with this. I personally love this stuff. It will dry kind of like a scab would in real life. It doesn't get like sticky and stay sticky all day, it hardens. So it looks like blood, but it won't be like running down your hand every time you try to do something. So I really like to put it all over. But if you don't want a lot of this all over, that's totally fine. All right, now one more thing you can do is take that same sponge from earlier, dip it in your gel blood, and wipe a ton of it off because you only want a tiny bit of gel blood for this. Then just go back over top of that wrist where it's connected to the black and dab that all over. If you need more gel blood, you can go back for more, but I always like to build up rather than just have too much at once. It's easier to build this stuff than it is to take it back off. And that's all there is to it. Just a few easy steps, and this look alone with all your materials should cost you under $20, and you can reuse them for whatever project you want. All right, now if you want links to any of this stuff, I linked everything below that you'll need to do this tutorial, as well as the safety data sheet for the paint so that you can read it and research it yourself, just to make sure it's something you want to put on your own skin. If at any time you're uncomfortable with any of these products being put on your skin, by all means, please find something else to use instead. You don't have to use these. This is just what I thought would be cheapest and easiest instead of getting the really expensive professional tools. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more videos and tutorials like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can stay updated with me when I upload new content. And don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you get notifications every time I post a new video. I'd love to see your comments on this tutorial and things you'd like to see next, so don't forget to drop them below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. No!